Dane Sensor, followed by Linda Seeley.
Yes, my name is Dane Sensor. I had a small company called Central Coast Concierge. I was a co-founder and vice president for a nonprofit, and I've been doing fundraisers, public relations, and promotions for the last 25 years. The one thing that I would like to say before this planning commission, I've never been before this planning commission before, but I felt compelled to be here today because of several things. One of them being the fact that if this is simplified, God forbid if I could see confused or complicated or detailed, because what I see happening here is a lot of politics involved from just what I've heard since I walked in this room. The fact that the council here had to say, quote, minds made up, and refer to people taking a certain side on issues. I felt that there's two planning commissioners here today that I think their minds are already made up. I don't care if they hear 100 or 1,000 people here. I think they're going to vote today the way they're going to vote. And to me, that's sort of disturbing, because I think it's the power of the people that has to be heard, not some political side or this side. You really have to, in these economic times, the situation out there that's in the public right now, what's happening, you have to take into consideration many things. And a lot of them are not necessarily your political agenda or something else. There are excellent ways to accommodate these people and make them, and not take their living away from them, their livelihood, their pursuit of happiness. And what's presented before here today is nothing less than more bureaucracy. I don't see any common sense in it. I see a lot of creative ways to get more taxes maybe, and more regulations. That word regulation is in here. It's in your thing, regulations. How much regulations do you think people can take before they break their backs? I know for myself, my back has already been broken. I'm sleeping in my car, okay? That's how tough things are out there. They're difficult, extremely difficult. And to make them more difficult, more regulated, more bureaucracy, people can't take it anymore. They're overwhelmed, okay? And they've had enough. And it's people like this out here who are gathering in groups. You see more and more tea parties, people. They've had enough. They can't take it. And I don't think they're going to take it. And I don't blame them. And I'll tell you, the last time I checked, we still have power as the people. So we voted people in. I think we still have the power to take them out. I think if we can't get some accommodation, God willing, give the power to the people still, and let them make what's right, make what's wrong right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sensor. Linda Seeley is our next speaker, followed by Paul Hoover, and Stacy Jacob is on deck. Is Linda Seeley in the room? I don't see Miss Seeley here, so Paul Hoover is our next speaker, followed by Stacy Jacob. Lisa Badrogi is on deck.
Good morning, Board. Been here quite a few times on this item, so try to keep it brief for you. I represent Paso Robles Wine Country Alliance. I'm a director. We have 500 members, approximately 200 winery members, and then 100 growers. I think to just summarize, I've been through many, many meetings, and it does seem like we're kind of stagnating in the same problem and not making progress. I know you've been trying to make progress. So I go back to 2004, when the board's request, as I understand it today, was simplify this process. As I stand here today, I think it's quite easy to say this is not a simple process and not something that is easily simplified. So given that, I think your input from your advisory groups that I have had an opportunity to hear from this, I think there's a bias, personally, as to the results of that, and I don't think their intent was necessarily to simplify the process, but possibly restrict the use of agricultural land, and I think that's very significant. So at this time, an important thing that I think our association would like to say is, why reinvent the wheel? We've heard many comments on the current winery ordinance that seems to be working very well, and comments from other agricultural members. We feel we're part of agriculture, and there's been comments this morning as why should there be a difference, and I think that's true. I will say that we don't want to go through this whole process, I think, and end up back here again talking about the same process. I think, Ms. Wyatt, you stated it very correctly, what was the current ordinance, and obviously minor use permits are quite complicated, so I think we do have to try to go somewhere. So my suggestion is, I think this has to go back to the Board of Supervisors. To sit here today and think that it's 2004, which when this process was brought, I think you've seen a lot of emotion in this room surrounded the survival of many businesses that lots changed since 2004. So we all vote for our supervisors, and we hope we get good, non-biased direction from those supervisors as to the outcome of our county. As an owner of a winery and a vineyard, I can say that there isn't an exaggeration of the potential clean revenue from this industry. We do a few weddings, and a wedding for 70 people, my opinion is it generates an instant 30,000, 20 to 30,000 just directly from all the people who we've talked about, photographers, all of that, and indirectly close to 100,000 by the time they stay here for 3 days. So I suggest you send this back to the supervisors, look at the economic depth of making a mistake here and creating restrictions and more in time. God knows you've already suggested today you got a lot of things to work on. So it would be my request that you send this back to the supervisors for clarification and direction as to where we should go.
Thank you, Mr. Hoover. Stacy Jacob is next, followed by Lisa Bedrogi, and Steve McGraw is on deck. And I would just remind the speakers that we have 45 minutes worth of speaker slips yet left, which is going to take us well into our lunch hour, so your brevity would be appreciated. Welcome, Ms. Jacob.
Great, thank you. My name is Stacy Jacob. I'm the Executive Director of the Paso Robles Wine Country Alliance. As you know, we've been discussing the proposed Ag Event Ordinance in front of you now for more than 5 years. 13 committee meetings and 5 Planning Commission hearings later, there's still great concern among the community regarding the unintended consequences reflected in this ordinance. Representing the Paso Robles Wine Country Alliance, our membership is concerned, as we do find areas of overlap between this ordinance and the already in place Winery Event Ordinance. We believe this is unintended, but further evidence on how this ordinance has drifted from the original legislative intent. Throughout discussions in recent weeks, a few facts need to be clarified. First of all, there are more than 200 wineries in San Luis Obispo County, not 425 as noted. This is referenced in the Economic Vitality Corporation Economic Impact Report in 2007 and can be further verified through the ABC Type 2 bonded licenses. It's also important to note that not all wineries have requested permits to conduct weddings and special events. Wineries use events as a marketing tool to sell wine. The winery event ordinance in place may provide that model for ag events to consider. As you've seen today, it's helped the local industry grow to employ more than 8,000 people in this county, contribute $1.8 billion annually as an economic impact, and furthermore contribute $86 million worth of state and local taxes to our area. The Paso Robles Wine Country Alliance represents more than 500 members, including wineries, wine grape growers, hospitality partners, including all those bed and breakfasts, restaurants, and hoteliers, and other related businesses in our area. We feel it's important to work with local government, our neighbors, and our community. We realize as communities grow, there are growing pains to protect our quality of life. We are working to develop programs to strengthen our neighbor relations to maintain the quality of life we all desire and enjoy. The wine community stands together with our agriculture and business partners in opposition of this proposed report. We request a fair and honest discussion be held. But please, before more staff time, special interest or public investment can be made in drafting changes to the ordinance, we request this ordinance be sent back to the Board of Supervisors for further direction and clarification. As you've heard it echoed many times today, please do the right thing, send it back to the Board of Supervisors, and clarify the legislative intent. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jacob. Lisa Bedrogi, followed by Steve McGraw, and Jacqueline Frederick is on deck.